most of our major food types, talking about basic necessities of a human, water, food. So on food, to our table in an instant. Everything has to take time, has to travel. Here again, looking at the local food imports, but shifting our focus to food production on the graph on the lower right, we see that a certain on food production, a certain set of people need to produce the plants or animals or fish. Then another set of people will process them. Yet another set of people will move them to places where another set of people will store these foods. Before we, the consumers, procure it. All these consume energy. Tractors, choppers, cleaners, silos, freezers, lorries, trains, etc. Even in our homes, we need to move our cars to go to the market, to go to the supermarket, to purchase this stuff, and to come back and store them in our freezers, in our refrigerators, in cupboards, wherever. Again, comes back to one major factor: energy. Looking at the household food consumption, let's focus on one thing. We do not have any or most of this in our backyards. On the top right-hand corner, left corner, if you see, you have food away from home, 40%, others 19%, vegetables 6%, chicken 5%, rice 4%, high import content items 26%. Those are beef, bread, fish, milk, fruits, vegetables, and all this stuff. But even if you don't look at the import stuff, you look at the local stuff, vegetables, chicken, rice, and all that. These are not all the time in our backyards. We need to get them from somewhere, meaning travel, also known as energy expended. And the previous process repeats itself: the production, the transportation, the preservation, and all that. Also, 26% being imported means that we expend even more energy to get these things from thousands of miles away to our doorstep. Even energy must again be expended to purify the water. There are three main techniques. There may be others, but I've listed just the basic known popular ones: distillation, osmotic filtering, and standard electrofiltering. So I've just listed the basic ones. Okay, even this, whichever way you look at it, whether in any one of these three techniques, you want to heat up the water, you want to put pressure onto the osmotic membrane, or you want to apply electricity to the electrodes. Any which way you look at it, you need energy. So water purification needs energy, and to make it potable. But we modern humans have gone the extra mile to bottle it. Even more energy is needed now. Then, this bottling process is not a cheap process. If you can see the top left corner, the process of creating bottles for water is quite a complicated process, not direct production. So we need to purify, we need to bottle it, and then we need to transport it all over the country. Again, energy comes to our local stores. It's kept in freezers before it quenches our thirst. Again, energy. All the while using more and more energy. It is already enough energy being spent by our local water councils, where they purify the water and send it to our houses, to our tap. Now we are spending more money and spending even more on energy to bottle it, to transport it, to put it in the freezer. This is unprecedented use of energy that is only based on one person. Imagine 8 billion people do it. Of course, not all people on earth get access to clean water, bottled water, but just imagine at the current rate, with the population roughly about 8 billion, let's say, probably 5 to 6 billion are able to get this. That's still 5 billion people expending that amount of energy to simple basic need of water. A comparison of of energy use in homes in the US on the top left pie chart between 1978 and 2005 shows changing percentages, but with the total usage contracting by 0.03 quadrillion British thermal units. It may prove to that our energy usage has become slightly better, probably more efficient devices, which is where I suspect the space heating has contracted. But on the other hand, we are still spending, even though our energy usage by appliances have become more efficient, but we are not reducing them, or we are not using them in the 1978 level. We are increasing our usage. Somehow we are compensating our usage to come up to almost the full level. So what is the point of having more energy efficient devices if we are going to use more than necessary? Again, energy being expended. This is a view graph from Tenaga National of of all the amount of electrical stuff, electrical appliances that a typical probably middle class or upper middle class Malaysian uses. The amount of things there, and it is only going to increase now that we are going towards home automation, all those additional sensors, cameras, Wi-Fi, smart TVs, and all the other stuff. On the top left corner, we see the Malaysian primary energy source, which is derived from mostly petroleum, natural gas, and coal. Our renewable energy sources are about 3%. Is a 2014 statistics, so I suspect maybe we have increased to 5, maybe 8% to at the present. But then again, we imagine our population now balloons to 40. We're already at 33 plus 35. Let's say we're going to 40. And there was once national idea put forth to push our population to 70 million. And amount of natural gas burned, amount of petroleum, other liquids burned, amount of coal burned in our electrical energy needs would have been fantastic. Amount of carbon dioxide released, amount of sulfur dioxide released, amount of greenhouse, local climate change, it would have been unprecedented. There were other considerations when such ideas were put forth, but on an energy perspective alone, purely looking at an energy perspective, that would have been a staggering amount of energy requirement for 70 million population. So I've put forth the main focus of my poser here today. I wouldn't call myself as presenting on a particular topic, but I'm presenting a poser, a question, something for all of us to think about, which I think we should, and we should, as a university, we should focus on part of our work on such ideas. And so our focus today is on energy. As we see, locally and globally, energy consumption has increased from 1990 to 2019. The top shows you the global view. The bottom shows you Malaysia. This energy consumption is primary production plus trade plus marine bunkers and stock variation. Marine bunkers are all those shipping and flight fuel stuff. So all these energy storages. So looking at those, even looking at just Malaysia, of course, we are not as bad as Indonesia and Thailand, but still, from an energy perspective, I wouldn't say it's bad or good, but personally, from an energy perspective, you look at the Malaysian map, where we have increased from roughly below 50 million energy production to more than 50 to 100 in 2019. It may not be much, but looking at the global perspective, the amount of energy consumption has increased tremendously. You look at the graph, a lot more places are green. This is the energy extraction or production, again comparing from 1990 to 2019. Energy production has kept pace, except ours, of course. In Malaysia, it looks the same, but this is all balanced out by consumption, usage, and population, all those stuff. So that's why Malaysian graph looks the same, but actually it has increased. So as we increase our usage of energy, it is a natural business practice to keep up the energy production. When will this stop? Beats me. This is energy use per person since 1965, which has ballooned to 2019. If we're going back, you see not much of the earth used much energy in 1965. It's not to say that there are no users in that place. Of course, in 1965, the entire Eastern Bloc was communist, so no information traveled in or out. But since then, don't just look at Russia, USSR at that time. Look at China, look at India, look at Japan, Korea, Vietnam, and all those countries. Look at Africa, look at South America. Everything is red. So we have required per person, our energy requirement has increased. Again, everything comes back to energy. So as a conclusion, humans use energy, and without energy, Earth comes to a standstill. Our population, the global population, will increase without some comet or nuclear bomb or war or catastrophic event stopping us. So population will increase. With population increase, our basic needs of a human, the 6 basic needs, will increase. We cannot expect humans to increase but not eat or drink or move or work or sleep or require a house. These things go hand in hand with every person on earth. So with that, energy consumption will increase at an increasing rate. There is no turning back from this. What are we going to do about this? Now, on the good part of it, we have identified some renewable energies: solar, wind, biomass, hydrogen fuel, geothermal, wave power, hydroelectric, and all this stuff. And on the bad part of it, we have the polluting guys: fossil fuels, natural gas, coal, nuclear. And to date, the bad guys, fossil fuels, coal, natural gas, are still the main source of global energy. This is from a BP statistics, British Petroleum. So if you look at the hydro, nuclear, wind, solar, and other renewables, they are way, way, way below total production, total consumption, total need. So the bad guys still lead in energy production. And it seems that we are the biggest of the bad guys, Asia Pacific. Of course, it is not Malaysia per se, but we are in the group. Thailand, Indonesia, China, Korea, Japan. So all these have pushed up the energy consumption region in our region. North America has plateaued, Europe has plateaued, Middle East, South and Central America, Africa are nowhere near. I think for them, for Middle East, South America, and Central America and Africa, is sufficient to step up on the renewables, and we can comply with their requirement. But Asia Pacific, what are we going to do? The ugly part is, this is the ugly story of energy production. As much as hydroelectric is termed renewable, how renewable is renewable? Hydroelectricity has its own problems. We have all those submerged flora. If you see the orchid shown with the methane pollution, when you build a dam, you're going to submerge a huge area. When you submerge this huge area, I'm sorry, message. If you when you submerge this huge area, what happens is the plants decay anaerobically. Once they decay anaerobically, they start to release greenhouse gases, carbon dioxide, and all the other stuff. Which, if you look at the area, it could be quite big amount of release, or is this greenhouse gas emission. So hydroelectric is not as green as it seems. And then on the second picture on the left, you see some ancient stuff. So hydroelectric has the not popular with history buffs and archaeology, because it tends to submerge a lot of our history. And on the last one, we lose a lot of our flora to the catchment area. A lot of medicinal plants are lost, a lot of trees are lost. The amount of area available for oxygen creation is tremendously reduced. And if you follow scientific news regularly, recently it was reported that the amount of trees on Earth are now currently insufficient to support oxygen, carbon dioxide transfer. So what we learned in our young time was plants release oxygen with photosynthesis, and they absorb carbon dioxide. Well, now there is so much carbon dioxide in the air that they plants are not able to cope, and because of all those chemicals and insufficient greens available, the plants themselves are releasing carbon dioxide. So that is a shocker. On the right hand side, you see the negative part of dams, hydroelectric dams. Of course, sometimes you have to release water when there's is a El Nino or La Nina phenomenon, which is coming every few years on a rotational basis currently. Global fact. So dams have to release water, you have to flood off the lower part. Then dams have this special consequence where pockets of stagnant water, especially in the catchment area, especially in also in downstream of the river, where pockets of stagnant water are found, and these are perfect breeding grounds for mosquitoes. So they have been also found to, in a long-winded way, to be supporters of mosquito and dengue and all that stuff, where it's possible. And the last but major factor is for farmers. Before the hydroelectric dams were there, farmers used natural flooding. So the natural flooding brings about fertilizers from upriver, downriver. So the delta at the downside, at the Hilir, used to be flooded, and the yearly renewal of the soil. But when you dam it, that flooding doesn't happen, and there is no way for the land to replenish itself. So what does the farmer do? We replenish it with chemicals. We use fertilizers. So the moment we use fertilizers, you know where fertilizers go. Fertilizers go underground. They don't just stay underground, they become chemicals which leach into our underground water reserves in our water table, and it becomes our drinking water. And then we have to expend more energy to clean up those extra chemicals. So again, hydroelectric, although is mostly green, but there are some concerns that we should look at. We must not also forget the amount of land that we have to clear up. I think currently the biggest dam in the world is China's Three Gorges Dam, where they have built a huge dam at the confluence of three rivers. On the left, top and bottom, is an old Google view of our Bakun Dam. What I'm focusing here is, before energy can be produced, you have to expend a lot more energy to cut down the trees, to move the logs, to build up the dam, to build up the roads, to get everything operational, to bring the stuff into full operational before the ROI is seen, return of investment. So again, destruction of areas, destruction of land, as you can see on the bottom picture of some dam, I think somewhere in the Himalayas or something like that. So hydroelectric, is it really green? Is it really renewable? Then we have wind. Wind power there are many proponents currently of wind power, but it has its own problems. The most famous is of wind blades, the wind blades killing birds and bats. Of course, bats and coronavirus are related, but bats do have their place in our ecosystem, as do birds. So this is one of the biggest detriment of wind farm, the killing of flying animals. Next, wind power was also found to have a negative effect on local climate. There was a slight change, about 0.5 degree, but a measurable change in the local climate. But my take on this is, in physics, we learned that there's no such thing as free energy. The wind farm does not turn freely on its own. It turns because there is wind. And where does wind come from? Wind is the earth, part of the earth climate force, the waves, the heat, temperature differentials, pressure differentials, wind, and finally the expansion and contraction of air, and therefore wind movement, and all this stuff. But if the wind power is being extracted somewhere down the line, the wind does not have energy to compensate for the Earth's kinetic energy that in the first place it created. The total energy expended by Earth from the sun, from the pressure differential to temperature differential to kinetic energy of the wind moving. So somewhere down the line, the climate at that place is going to change. That is my take on it. So wind doesn't seem to be so positive. And if you look at the picture on the left, you'll see that oh, it's quite big compared to the birds. But if you compare the background picture of the guy actually standing on the wind generator, you can see the actual massive size of the wind turbines. Imagine you have 50, 100,000 of this, all of them extracting and wind energy, extracting Earth's energy to create energy for us. We are in effect, if you say, we are in effect constricting ourselves. On the other hand, these need to die too. What happens to the wind blades and the mast and the generator when it fails? Is some composite plastic, and as we know, plastic cannot be recycled to a certain extent. So it ends up in the landfill. Do we want this? That land could have been used for building other stuff, maybe to have to build to create a vegetable farm, say. So unnecessary use of land. Geothermals. The geothermal works by pumping water into underground heat sources and using the aquifers to extract steam and hot water to turn the turbine. And in some places, it is known to add. It is known that the engineers add some additives so that the water could withstand the higher pressures and temperature before becoming full steam and breaking out the aquifers. So there's some toxicity involved, and the biggest no factor is when water and steam comes out from the underground, they bring up sulfur dioxide. So these geothermal farms release sulfur dioxide, another greenhouse gas. So the poser, is geothermal really green? Then we move on to biomass. All those veggie stuff that we're supposed to be able to reuse, like corn, like waste, like wood. You're supposed to either burn them or chemically convert them or biologically convert them to produce liquid and gaseous fuels. Maybe the biological version is possible, but then can we make enough biofuel in the last way, biological conversion using bacteria and stuff? Can we produce enough bacteria to feed 8 billion people or 10 billion people in the future? And then again, comes the next question. Are those bacteria safe? How much bacteria is needed to serve 10 billion people? Can we handle them safely? Selangor State can't even handle clean water in the rivers. What are we going to do about bacteria in a massive, massive, massive scale? Biomass production, where we need to store those biomass, how we are going to farm the biomass. Everything expends energy. Storing them expends energy. Transporting them expends energy. And in the end, to produce energy, we are using up energy. So what's so green about that? And solar. Yes, solar is nice, solar is clean. Is it really? The top left picture is of a 5 megawatt solar plant in Malaysia. Do we have to clear that land? We have expended energy in clearing that land to produce energy. We have expended energy in making the fuels, the solar panels, to make more energy. Does it really make sense? On the bottom picture, we see what China has done. They've put it on the sea. Really? Putting it in the sea? I don't know what's the logic in this, but if we have any swimming electrical engineers, go ahead. And what are solar cells made of? There's a huge, big variety. The perovskite, the most popular one right now, uses lead. The cheapest solar cell uses cadmium. Then there's a group of people using organics. And of course, there's polysilicon and monosilicon, polycrystalline and monocrystalline silicon. But whichever way you see it, when you say solar cell, is it just silicon? You have all kind of stuff going into it. You have titanium, palladium, silver, aluminium, indium, nickel, gallium. All this, where is it going to go? What happens to it at the end? And to need more and more of this at this scale, that's crazy. What about the packaging of these solar cells? The solar cells are not just solar cells, but you have to cover them with a glass, you have to have some encapsulant, you have to have some contacts, you have to some frame, all this stuff, every different material. The glass, as much as glass seems nice and clear, it is, what goes in glass is crazy. The purest form of glass is just silicon dioxide, but the glass that we use in our homes, in our doors, in the solar is not the pure form. It is a crazy mix of materials, which might have lead, which might have sodium and all the other stuff inside. Where do these go? What happens to them? We must not forget, solar does not operate on its own. We need to store them. Batteries. And batteries, there are many types. Of course, now we used to have cadmium and all this stuff, but more or less the earth has settled on two main types, the energy efficient lithium types and the dollar efficient, the ringgit efficient lead acid type. Either way, what goes into these Is it just lithium electrode and some conducting salt, lithium conducting salt? No, it's a whole mesh of materials. Either battery you choose, you're bound to hit some wall where, of course, we may argue that this is not much, or this is recyclable and all the stuff. Are we really recycling them? What happens when they die? What happens when the solar cells die? What happens when the batteries die? There's a huge amount of energy wasted. We have expended energy in producing them, and at the end, we cannot expend any more energy in recycling them, so therefore we just throw them. Is this what we have come to? This is kind of a selingan to throw everybody off focus for a bit. This is about energy sources and their water utilization. Water is a basic human need, and if you remember, it's our we are going to be competing with all these guys, not forgetting industry. At the end of the day, if our energy use rate is higher than energy production rate, no matter which energy we choose, whether it's going to be green or not green, renewable or not renewable, whichever way you look at it, if we continue being as hungry, if we continue being as greedy, no matter how you do your mathematics, it's going to be unsustainable. It's going to be simply unsustainable. So we are not going to be able to sustain the current or future energy production if we are going to be greedy about it. How do we make it sustainable? How do we enhance our longevity here on Earth? How to take care of Earth for our future children? Some people are doing it with dual use, where they farm energy and crops. Some, I think this is a bit more responsible way of solar farming. Instead of clearing land, have it as dual use on a house roof, on a building roof. Then there's wind. Some people are coming up with new types of wind extractors. Some are without blades. May not change climate that much. Are these responsible? They need to die too. This is a project in Malaysia proposed. I'm not sure whether it's on the way or done, where they want to use waste to burn the waste and create energy. And at the last stage, they promised to clean it up a bit by filtering it off. Or this project where they covered a landfill with solar, and they also at the same time extracted the energy, the methane release, to burn it off to create additional energy. But again, at the end of the day, are these green? Are these renewable? Are these sustainable? Will these make Earth a safe place to live? And so we come to our final view graph, to my poser, to my fellow friends. As an educated community, where we have learned from mistakes of the past, we have learned what not to do with plastic, what to do with plastic, how plastic affects us. We have learned how to manage things. We have learned how to reprocess things, recycle, what I mean. And we have the capacity to think forward. At this juncture in time, we have the capacity to think forward. Think forward here means to think what are the consequences of what we are doing currently. Are we just going to blindly accept what makes dollar and cents instead of what makes good green sense, what makes logical sense? Instead of dollar sense, we must look at logical sense. So, my poser, are we future responsible? And with that, I thank you.
Hello, thank you, Prof. Finish, Prof.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Prof,
Yes,
for
sir.
very impressive presentation. So, we open to any kind of question from the floors to Prof.
Oh, ada question?
Ada question, Prof. Maybe there, maybe some others, our researchers yang berminat
tanya banyak
on their
banyak.
Mati.
on apa
Tanya
NHP,
banyak-banyak.
Prof.
Uish.
Any question?
Siap dah sembahyang dah.
Prof, saya nak tanya.
Ya.
So,
Ya, Prof.
regarding your presentation,
Ya, Prof.
any reflect to nation? I mean, ada tak benda yang kita boleh moving forward untuk nation punya roadmap?
Moving forward for nation, saya rasa we explore more on renewable, but at the same time fokus saya lebih kepada future sustainable, lebih kepada can we recycle as sort of to reclaim back what we have used. Apa yang kita boleh reclaim back. Saya rasa our present attitude of use and throw is bad. We cannot just use and throw. We need to somehow create research focus, especially in Unimap. We have the resources, we have the departments to do that. We can create recycling efforts. I think that is quite important, where we will make impact. So to move forward, maybe I would like to see, I'm happy with Unimap punya initiative on that solar on our buildings. That is a good move. Instead of building a solar farm on the land, I want to see solar on the roof of houses, of buildings. Again, maybe we can work together with Tenaga on how to come up with energy metering, how to sell back energy to Tenaga, to tap back into the grid. Itu the main point that we can move forward. Dr. Shazlina has asked, what is the most efficient form of renewable? Wow, this is I think it's not an easy question to answer. I think we must base on where we are. What is our local climate like? For Malaysia, we have plenty of sun. I think solar makes sense. Solar energy makes sense, but also our our local climate, our temperature and our humidity is high, so we might be able to harness bacteria-based bioenergy, biomass energy generation. Ada lagi. Is nuclear energy really safe in the long run? Nuclear energy, okay. I would like to give a brief history of
Hello. Right, start.
Please turn off the mic.
Nuclear and
Okay, Prof, proceed.
Okay. The question was, is nuclear energy really safe in the long run? Okay. The nuclear energy that we know of right now, all those accidents that was produced in 3 Mile Island, Chernobyl, and even in Fukushima, these accidents are primarily due to one reason, because the world in the 1950s, 1940s, 50s, 60s were divided as it was divided in the Cold War, the West against the USSR, the Eastern Bloc. And so the best energy, nuclear energy production at that time was a nuclear scheme that enabled them to produce nuclear weapons. So they created materials, they created processes where nuclear energy will eventually give material enrichment for their nuclear war program. So that has really backfired on us. On the other hand, there is some minor effect. Before I move further, if we follow that same process, yes, it is not safe at all. But there are some group of people who are pursuing an alternative nuclear program, which is cleaner than what we are currently doing. And so we may see some positive outcome out of this, but time is yet to tell. There's a question by Dr. Rosalita. With a lot of electronic waste, what are personal responsibility as a researcher? Personal responsibility as a researcher. I think personally, as a person, we cannot run away from using electronics. We cannot run away from not using them. But what we can do collectively as a university, as a not as a personal responsibility as a researcher, but as a collective researcher as a university, yes, we can initiate recycling programs. I know a lot of people in the Klang Valley who do illegal recycling, where they pollute the earth in the process. They use all kind of acids, they just throw them down the river, but they do extract gold, they do extract silver. These are the two main things that they can see. Whereas as a researcher, we know there's a good amount of titanium inside it, there's some rare earth inside it, there is gold, silver, there's nickel, a lot of precious materials are inside electronic waste that we can recycle. I think we should really look into recycling this in a green and efficient way. What is the constraint for Malaysians to work on nuclear fusion projects? No way, Jose. I think nuclear is not for Malaysia. We don't have sufficient people in the nuclear, and we don't have it will mean we'll have to import our nuclear energy source from somewhere. our nuclear energy sources are insufficient. Yes, we do have some yttrium from our tin mines, but most of our tin mines are shut down. There is a project, as far as I'm aware of, there was a project a few years back where they tried to bring back nuclear energy in a limited show-off scale, but I don't know whether if it took off or not. What do you think about sound energy? Do you think sound will have high potential compared to other types of renewable energy in nowadays? Oh, that is quite a forward one. Yes, sound, I'm not aware how popular is sound. As far as I know, there are two major proponents of sound energy. One is in the refrigeration community, and the other one's in the weapons category. As far as energy, as far as energy is concerned, on how to harvest the sound energy available to us, maybe we should all start singing in our cars. That's the best I can say. How to encourage people to move toward repair instead of buy? No, that's a tough one. Two things. First and foremost is education. We need to educate ourselves. Malaysian education level has improved, but merely educating is not enough. We must also think. I think as a society, as a Malaysian society, we are not thinking. We are educated, we can communicate well with people, but we are not thinking. That is a big problem. And as for Malaysia, the second biggest hurdle for us is, as a people, we have not realized what the people can do. We are still waiting for the authorities to hand us down legislations, hand us down rules, hand us down projects. I think if we change that mindset, then we can move towards repair, reuse, recycle instead of buy and throw. Sometimes not worth to repair, that's why we buy new. Yes, correct. Sometimes it's not worth to repair, but not everybody can buy new. So repair might benefit those lower ones. For instance, for us, we might be not logical to repair our handphone, and hence we throw it away. But what about some guy in the kampong that cannot afford much, and maybe a few hundred ringgit to reused phone is all that's for him? Then I think in the word of communication, in the word of communication, we need to support these people. Every year iPhone coming up, new model iPhone lasts to 5 years before it can't handle the new. This is not energy question. I'm sorry, I'm not going to answer this. Is a capitalist question.
Prof, last.
Yes.
That's fine. So what Unimap should do now,
sir,
for research especially?
I think Unimap should move forward on recycling.
Recycling.
Looking at renewable energy, but looking at renewable energy in a responsible manner. That means we must not look at just, wind can produce energy, therefore create the best wind energy, or solar can produce good, cheap energy for Malaysia, so look at solar. But we must think forward 10 years, 20 years, 30 years. Can we reuse the solar? Can we repair the solar? Can we recycle the solar? That is what I mean by future responsible. So we don't just create things for the sake of creating, but we create things that can be sustainable, that will use less resources in the future. Yes, initially we may have to expend extra energy to create this stuff, but how can we make it last longer? Instead of looking at 50 years, 60 years lifespan, let's look at 300 years, 400 years lifespan. That's what I mean. Thank you.
Thank you, Prof.
Thank you, sir.
So I think that's all for today. So thank you, Prof, Prabha, and to all participants. So I think really hope that we gain a new knowledge from this webinar. Till that, thank you for your time and participation. And we meet again in the next Professor Tong Rmc Unimap sharing program. Inshallah. Thank you. Thank you all.
Thanks, Associate Professor Dr. Besson, Dr. Rashidi, and thank you, Prof. Mustafa, Pengarah, RMC Malaysia, RMC Unimap Malaysia. Sorry. And all my colleagues who have joined us. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Prof. Thank you, Prof.
Yes, thank you. Stay safe. Stay safe.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you. See you. Bye.